would be appropriate to say something about so who was Thomas Daniel Dunne? Tom was born on January 31st, 1940 to John Marie Dunne. He had an older brother, Jack, a younger brother, Jim, and a sister, Pat, who was clearly the diamond among the rough. Our father was a devoted husband, a loving father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and friend. Those words sound great. They evoke sadness in his memory, but that wasn't who he was. He was more than that. He was different things to different people. After reading all the texts, the emails, the Facebook posts, the common thread we heard, as he was a joke teller, a storyteller. It didn't stop with other people. He really enjoyed himself. He would say all the time, I really enjoy being me. I like me. If your mother goes first, I'll be able to entertain myself. If my mind goes, it will be fine. I do like meeting new people. It is only fitting to tell his life and his qualities through stories. Tom Dunne was the ultimate storyteller. Tom Dunne, the problem solver. Tom was a scoutmaster for over 10 years. And everybody in the troop, and he always tried to get the kids, especially the kids that didn't fit in, to fit in and get along. For instance, he had a very talkative kid, Ken Lindstrom, at camp. And he never stopped talking. Even if you were talking, he would continue to talk. So being the problem solver he is, no one wanted to take him Ken with the kid. So he put him with a deaf kid. At about 1 in the morning, he heard Kenny talking to someone. He thought Ken might be out of his tent, so he unzipped his tent to go out and tell him to go back to bed. No one was out there. Ken was in the tent in the dark, talking to the deaf kid. He knew right away he had made the right decision. Tom Dunne, the consoler. Over the years, my father took scouts away for weeks at a time. One year, he had a scout, Bobby DePisa. Bobby had never been away from home and was very homesick. He cried every day, sniffling, with, as my father would say, dried snots on his cheek and his nose. So my father decided to cheer him up. He'd try and, with different cheers, and he even put the kid on his shoulders and was bouncing him around and running around. Now picture him as 13 in a bedroom. That's truly dedication. Tom Dunne, the never-ending joker. One time, we were going out to dinner, my mother, myself, and Caitlin, and my father, to Long John Silver's.
Oh.
My father said, we're going to Long John Silver's, and Caitlin, being very young, didn't want to go to Long John Silver's. She had no idea what it was or what food they had, but she wasn't going. And so my dad said, well, you know, we could go to Boopy Bob's. He goes, but I don't know if you'll like it. And she said, what's Boopy Bob's? And he said, well, you've heard the theme song on the TV. So he made up a theme song. We started singing it in the car. Boopy Bob's, boop-be boop, boopy Bob's. And so we went into the restaurant, and Caitlin asked my mother, can I get a hot dog? Does Boopy Bob's have hot dogs? And my mother said, you know Boopy Bob's doesn't have hot dogs. They have chicken or fish. And the person at the counter looked at them like they were nuts. And the thing that's funny about that, we went there several times. And I think about 5 years ago, she goes, you know, where was that restaurant, Boopy Bob's? And we had to tell her that there was no restaurant. Tom Dunne, the artist. Some artists work in clay, charcoal, oil, or even metal. My father worked in flat roofs. He really enjoyed going into work at 9 a.m. in the morning with his family, and right before leaving to go on estimates, he would do a quick release, or an SBD, silent but deadly to the layperson. He could just leave and you would see him chuckling as he got into his car and smiling. Once Tom and Jeannie were on a cruise and they had just gotten into the elevator, and my father did an SBD, and the doors closed, and if you've ever been on a cruise, they hold about 6 people, and they were on the 2nd floor going up to the 5th floor, and my mother was just praying that the door wouldn't open. Ding, the door opens, and there's a couple out there. So he grabs her hand, they run down the hallway as the couple gets into the elevator. As the doors are about to close, my mother said she heard the lady say, "Oh God." Tom Dunne, the dancer, strictly ballroom. Years ago, my parents would always talk about going out to dinner on double dates with Bill and Barbara Graham. And when they were out to eat, they were engaged at the time and getting married. And they always talked about what they were wearing on their honeymoon night. And Bill would say, "Barb, I wear jockey shorts to bed. I don't have a pajama. That's what I wear to bed." And she said, "I'm going to be wearing my peignoir, and you're going to come out in your jockey shorts?" And this was a common theme. And so he decided to break down and he bought a pair of pajamas. So after their wedding, they went back for a party at one of the houses, and as they were leaving to go on their honeymoon, my father, and I believe it was Jim Vlasny, went up to get his luggage. They proceeded to take his pajama bottoms out, took a pocket knife out, and cut the crotch out of his pajamas. Bill said he went into the bathroom to change on his wedding night, and he looked over on the sink at the pajamas and said, "Wow, that's a rather large fly." He put them on and said, "I can't go out there like this. I look like a deranged pervert." And so he said, "Barb, get my jockey shorts." Tom Dunne, the finder of lost goods. As many of you know, he has a commercial building, and one of the things that upset him a little bit was people throwing garbage into his dumpster. So one time he came and he saw that there was a garbage can all taped up with duct tape in his dumpster. So instead of just going back inside, he went and got a chair, a garbage bag, an X-Acto knife, and gloves. He cut the top off the garbage can, and while he was sitting down, and started to go through it, and there was all maggots and everything through it, and he started putting the garbage into the bag, and he found some mail. So he proceeded to write down the address and the name, and then he looked up the phone number with reverse phone number. He put the garbage back in the garbage can, taped it up, and then proceeded to write their name on both sides. "If lost, please return to." And he put it in the back of his Cadillac, drove over to their house, and called them and said, "Hey, did you lose a garbage can? I'm pretty sure I found it." And they said, "No, we got rid of that." He said, "Well, I'm putting it in front of your house, and I put your name on it just in case you lose it again." Tom Dunne, the Polish joke teller. He loved a good Polish joke. So, and the brunt of it typically was Thomas Kaprowski. So, and he really enjoyed telling Tom jokes. So one time he said, "Tom," one of his favorites was, "Tom, did you hear about the Polak that ran in the room carrying a pile of shit in his hands? Look what I almost stepped in." So one day he told Tom, he goes, "Yeah, I was up at the village pub, and there's a rather large bartender there." And he said, I looked over at the guy next to me, he goes, "You want to hear a good Polish joke?" He goes, the bartender came up, he goes, "I'm Polish, you want to tell a joke now?" Tom goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Well, no, not if I'm going to have to explain it." And he goes, so he pulled out a razor. And Tom goes, "No shit." And he goes, "Well, thank God he didn't have a place to plug it in." So fast forward, we go to Mexico, and it's for my brother's wedding in Mexico. and he had to write a speech. And I said, Tom, are you going to do it in Spanish and then have a version that's in English so that everybody can understand it? And he said, yeah. I said, wouldn't it be funny if you gave my father a different version? And that's what he did. So it was a very serious speech. And my parents were at the front table, the head table, and Tom said, hi, my name is Thomas Kaprowski. It was a very serious speech. And on my dad's version, it said, my name is Thomas Kaprowski. My friends refer to me as a Polish prince because I bagged many women. And he proceeded to laugh. And then he looked around going, oh God, we're going to get killed here. I don't mean that's not funny. And it said, I met Thomas Dunne in the Boy Scouts. That's where I had my first homosexual experience. So once again, he laughed. And he goes, nobody's laughing. And people are looking at him. I think Esmeralda cleaned her head over and said, why is your dad laughing? And then he said, I used to do drugs with Thomas Kaprowski. You know what I'm talking about, you little banditos? And same thing. And then after the speech was over, Tom went up to him and gave him the real version and said, so who's the Polak now? And Tom said, from that day forward, I didn't mind any Polish jokes from your father. So, my father also was a captain, and he loved his yacht. And he took and went with his childhood friend, Frank Troika. And they went for 2 weeks at a time. And being cramped on a boat is probably pretty difficult. And being the person my father is, he bought a tin whistle. On the second day, he pulled out the tin whistle and Frank goes, what the hell is that? And he goes, well, I figured since we're going to be on here 2 weeks, I should learn how to play the tin whistle. Oh, you're not going to play that, are you? And then a couple days later, he said, Frank, you want to watch a movie? And he goes, yeah, we could watch a movie. He goes, yeah, I picked up a movie. What movie did you pick up? He goes, oh, it's a love story. It's Brokeback Mountain. And so I think one day my father drank V8 every day. And he had his captain, and he got annoyed with him. And Frank was kind of annoyed with him at the end of the 2 weeks. I think Frank ate Oreos every day. People don't know that. And the guy said, why do you drink V8 every day? And Frank said, because he likes it. You know, I'm sure everyone in this room has a memory of my father. A funny story, if you will. He always talked about his younger brother and how he always included him. He made sure no one picked on him. He talked about how he and his brothers would interrogate gentlemen callers for Pat.
Oh yeah.
You made the cut. You know, wherever he went, people would gravitate towards him. This was especially true at wrestling tournaments. Parents would flock to him, and kids as well, just to hear his stories or have a talk. He saw people for who they were, and not as he thought they should be. He was a son, our father, our friend, our grandfather, our great-grandfather, husband, brother. We will see him again someday, and until then, we'll just have to live our own stories as he would want us to.
Aww.